This is the JAKL-10 as configured for the June 2025 Rio Black Rifle match. I have a Vortex 1:6 Razor HD with the MOA reticle in a Reptilia 1.54 height mount. The height of the rail is taller than a traditional AR-15 or AR-10. So with this mount, I have 3.61 inches of height over bore, which I've used to calculate my holdovers. I'm going to be shooting PMC Bronze 308B. That's a 147 grain projectile going at about 2,540 feet per second out of the 16-inch barrel of this JAKL-10. And let's see how it does at the match. The stage has 4 targets at 300 to 400 yards. The shooter has to hit once each from this position. My engagement on the second target here actually sprayed some rocks at it, giving a partial strobe activation, so I questioned the RO if I had actually hit it. And he said no, so I re-engaged it and got all 4 strobes lighting up. And once I've neutralized the targets from here, I have to move on and engage the plate rack standing from this box. This rifle is much heavier than the KP-15s I normally shoot. It weighs in at about 11.4 pounds as outfitted. So shooting offhand is a bit more of a challenge than it is with my much lighter AR-15 configuration rifles. It is funny to note that sometimes hitting those plates on the plate rack knocked down more than just the plate I was shooting at. Heavy metal, the division I'm competing in, only allows the use of a single optic, and if you're using magnification, you can only use 20-round magazines or less. So because I'm relegated to using a single optic, you'll see me dialing the scope up and down more throughout the match. On this stage, I am first in heavy metal division, giving me 100 match points. Because this rifle is heavier and thus slower to get into action, I decide to retreat first before engaging any targets, and I focus my stage plan on minimizing the number of separate target engagements I have. So I retreat to the rear here and engage all 3 targets when they're visible. Coming around this side, my stage plan is the same as it would be normally, engaging the targets as they become visible, moving forward, double tapping everything. I do reload as I move into the shooting position here because I've depleted my magazine down to only 4 rounds. I could go for single A-zone hits on paper to reduce the number of rounds fired, but I did want to try to get a feel for what it would be like trying to shoot this gun faster. Tried going faster on those hanging steel plates as well, resulting in some misses, so I focus on getting a good solid sight picture for every one of these long-range shots at about 300 yards. Every miss when you're shooting a battle rifle cartridge is that much more costly because there's more sight picture disruption and thus more time to get back on target. So you want to make sure every shot counts, much more so than when shooting 5.56. From here, the shooter re-engages the hanging steel targets, and while I have a couple misses, I think I was better in sync with the recoil dynamic of the rifle, transitioning to the next target and breaking the shot. I'm first in heavy metal on this stage, giving me 100 match points. Like this?
No, it's like this.
Apparently. Even though it just says
Jazz hands. Are you ready?
Ready.
Stand by.
I'm going to call the stage what a terrible day to not have a bipod. Bipods are allowed in heavy metal division, but unfortunately I was not able to mount one before the match, and I will discuss it at the end of the video. This stage requires the shooter only shoot 1 shot at each of 4 targets, 2 at 200 yards and 2 at 100 yards. Each miss is worth plus 10 seconds. Additional shots are plus 20 seconds. I'm adjusting my stock here to get better eye relief when shooting supported off of this block house. Unfortunately, the 20-round magazine isn't quite tall enough for me to get behind the rifle comfortably like I would with a 30-rounder and an AR-15, so I do the best I can here, trying to pull my weight down into the magazine and get as stable as possible, but it is a challenge. This was a pretty high penalty stage for people outside of the divisions that allow bipods. So open, stealth, and heavy metal division shooters with bipods all had an advantage here. Finally managed to get both of the 100-yard targets on this string and watch the 4-inch plate wrap itself over the top.
Oh no.
1459.
We ended up having to call the range cold to have that target fixed. Definitely my worst stage of the match, coming in 6th in heavy metal with 56.84% of the winner's score. I used this video of making a target fail to apply to the brutality matches, Target Breakers Local 308 Union, but they told me that as match management of brutality matches, I am not allowed to be a member of the union. These are all at about 350 yards. Got that target. Zoom in, we got this target. Over here we got that one, and then down in here at about 160. The stage requires that the shooter engage all 4 of those targets from 3 different shooting areas. Finding the targets is the biggest challenge of this stage with those black backers. They blend into the landscape pretty well. I know roughly the terrain features of where the targets are, which is why you see me popping my head up over the scope to get the rifle roughly aligned, then dropping down onto the scope. Transitioning through the scope target to target, particularly in such a wide arc, I think it would be easy for me to sweep past the target because there's a lot of like cactuses and stuff out there in shadows that look very similar to the targets if you're not looking in the right area. I'm trying to settle in and stabilize as much as possible before sending every shot on this stage. Even using this unrivaled brake, I can see how much my sight lifts off the target area for every shot fired. So I really want to minimize time lost by making those first shots count. On this stage, I end up with only 1 extra shot required from this position here because it is an awkward angle to get support and look through the optic. Quickly recover there. Now I'm going to be hunting for the last closer target because it's actually obscured through a bunch of brush. Once I see the shadow of the target, I can send the shot with confidence because I know 308 is going to clear through the brush no problem. On this stage, I'm first in heavy rifle division, giving me 100 match points. In the end, I'm first out of 10 shooters in heavy rifle division with 356.83 match points out of 400 possible. Overall, I'm 16th out of 99 shooters with 62.19% of the winner's score. So you can see that this gas block is very close to the bottom portion of the rail. And if you try to install an M-lock rail or bipod mount here where that gas block is, the screw and the nut will actually make contact with the gas block, and you don't want that if you actually want the rail to be free floated. So I had to order a long 2 full M-lock section of Picatinny rail to bridge over the gas block to actually make it so that it would not make contact with it once it was installed. So a better illustration of this is I have this short section here with the screws tightened into where they would be if you were actually installing it. And you'll see that they actually can't sit all the way in there because the screw is making contact with the gas block, and even shortening those screws, like taking it to a grinder and making them flush with the nut is still making contact with it. And even if it isn't, it's close enough that if the rail's flexing as you're loading weight onto it, I would not trust that to not make contact with the gas block, removing the free float function of the rail. So you're going to want to use a longer rail that covers both of these sections here if you're going to install a bipod on the front. This is the rail you'll want to use if you want to mount a bipod out front on the JAKL-10 like I do. This is the 7-slot aluminum rail from Magpul. And let's see if I can turn this so that we can see the screws in there a little bit. You see they're not making contact with the gas block because they're at the very front and the very back. And the gas block is now unencumbered from the M-lock accessory. I wish I would have had this rail for the black rifle match, but it showed up the day after. So hopefully you can avoid the frustration that I did in trying to use a bipod on my JAKL because none of my hardware allowed me to use it in time for the event. I am planning on using this rifle at High Desert Brutality 2025 coming up at the end of July in Parma, Idaho. I have one more local match I plan to use this rifle at before going up to that match. I will not be giving my opinion of the rifle until after High Desert Brutality, when I've had a chance to use this in depth and it will be part of an In-Range TV review. Thank you for watching. Come back again for more action shooting competition content, and always remember the Second Amendment is for everyone.